So we are right now, we're in what will be our blue store, so the store for our blue cheese. And David mentioned Andres, our Spanish friend, who had come here and had the vision to see all of this. And when he came down here, and he just said, this is perfect for maturing cheese. And at the time, it didn't look like this. It was a damp, dank hole. And he said, no, that's perfect, that's what you need for cheese. And so, ideal, your cheese ripening conditions are maybe between about 10 and 14, 15 degrees. So you don't ripen a hard cheese at 5 degrees or below 5. So it's got to be a warmer than that to get it to mature. And you need a lot of humidity. And one thing this room can do is humidity. Even in the driest of summers we were having humidity. So in the hottest day of the year we had a thermometer down here and a humidity meter, and it was 14 degrees in here and I think it was 89% humidity.
It was 32 degrees outside.
And it was 32 degrees outside. And we had that big door open, so it wasn't like we were... So we're confident that this room will be good enough. But we've obviously still to get roof on. And
There's a bit of insulation. There's insulation, there's about 4 inches of insulation above, plus concrete and underfloor heating for the room above, because that was the process room, that was where the cheese is getting made. And then there'll be insulation and then a finished tongue groove, actually, wooden tongue and groove, because that will look so nice. And we're hoping that we can keep the walls as they are, the stone natural walls, and we've got a good justification, but because it's a blue room, blue cheese is a little bit more sensitive to pathogens, so that may be a discussion we have with environmental health, but we're trying to keep the natural look of the whole system. When we rebuilt all these walls, and they're all being pointed, we used a lime mortar, so that it's not cement, it's not a cement mortar, it's a lime mortar. Lime mortar breathes, so it allows movement of moisture in the walls. Sometimes a little bit more moisture than you ideally want, but it's been raining. I think it does. And so we're allowing nature to, natural processes to develop as much as possible. And we've been to stores down south, admittedly, in England, where the old brickwork and stonework has been there, with mushrooms growing out of it. The cheese has been stored there, and these guys they've no problem. They've been making cheese there for generations, and they don't see it as a problem at all. So we can become a little bit oversensitive about these things, but it's always the chicken and egg situation of you have to prove your systems before you're allowed to have stretch the boundaries, and so.
Yeah, so when you're starting off, it's difficult to prove something that hasn't even happened yet. Anyway, going through to the main store. Well done.
Behind the stabilizers. So this is the main store for the straw. Now this straw, the threshing mill was sitting there. It was water driven originally, and there's a door beside it. The straw would come through here. There's an upper floor, timber floor, which the grain was stacked up. Opposite all that block work, which is fire regulations, fire safe, wasn't there. And the straw was just piled loose, and as a child we used to burrow in the straw, make tunnels in the straw, burrowing around it. And luckily nobody died, and it would have a fit these days. So it's an old building, 1700. It just has a lovely feel and a lovely character to it. So again, we're hoping that we'll be able to keep that traditional character. We'll be building racking in here from floor to ceiling. And we'll have a mezzanine floor coming in at half height, which will access the upper levels, so that it all can be done just by hand, and maybe a small step to help, because these cheeses have to be turned maybe once a week and then once a month until they're mature. So there's still a bit of work to do with them, and then of course picked for the customer. And then we'll be taken through to the next stage. Oh, we could have got down these stairs. Take the things away.
So this building has an interesting history.
Yeah, aye. It was only when we started stripping all the whitewash and bits of plaster off the wall that we realised that in fact this was a retrofit dairy. It had been 34 milkers in here and 40 in the other buyer. And the retrofit was, you could see there, the vent pipes had been made up with brickwork, so they punched a hole after the walls had been built, which made us a bit queried what was happening. And then there's windows here that looked like doorways that had been regularly placed along the wall, which you don't need for a dairy. So obviously there's been some other use. And our neighbour dropped in one day when we were working in here and said, "Oh, this was a piggery," which obviously it was. But there is a remains of a. Oh, that's one of them there. So there's these square holes in the wall where the whey would have been wheeled from the cheese dairy down, which was up in the buildings up there, down the outside wall, and then sloshed in here into a trough, and the pigs would. And when I was young, we had the pigs across the road in what had become the piggery by that stage, and the pigs just went crazy for the whey. So whey has always been an integral part of a cheese dairy, these dairies, these systems. Anyway, it was converted from pigs to dairy in the 1800s, 1850s, 60s, and then then it was dairy up until the 70s, mid-70s, when we moved all the dairy through to the another building, loose housing and cubicles, and this was turned into a calf rearing area, so the calves were reared in here, and it worked very well for that because it's quite well insulated. And then and that was up until 2 years ago when we did the suckling. So now the cows and calves are all together in the main new building that we have over there. And this is now going to become our
Cutting and packing room. So when we've been going around cheese dairies, just seeing how everybody else works, what you usually see is maybe one cheesemaker or two cheesemakers, but then you come to where the orders are getting made up and there's maybe 5 or 7 people there. So the labour intensive bit is here when you're actually picking your cheeses and preparing your orders. So this is where we will be doing it eventually. Yes, there will be food safe panelling on the walls and all the rest of it. And there will be a chill in the corner for orders going out, and it will be able to take pallets and pallets going out. And probably our most expensive piece of equipment is going to be down here, and that is going to be an exact weight cheese cutter. Because especially if you're doing internet orders, or if a customer wants an exact weight of cheese, if they want a 200 gram or 170 gram or whatever they've specified, you cut it, and if it's 170 you probably get 168. So you start again and you overcompensate, so you get 200, and then you try and take that 30 grams off, and you just go around in a circle trying to get something approximating to, no, not approximating, exactly or slightly more. So it is the most expensive piece of equipment that we're going to buy, but we've been told by quite a few folk that we know that use them that it'll pay you back in 2 years, because A, it's time, and B, it's not wasting cheese. So yes, the people that do that for us at the moment are really looking forward to it.
Because they have to have a job. Oh, sorry.
No, we need so many extra people. But so this will be the hive of activity.
Cutting and packing dispatch. Right.
Yes,
next door.
through next door. It goes on forever.
So this is the other end of the buyer, as it was, picture, as it was before that, and we're hoping that we do a tour every day with the ice cream or with the farm through the main season, and we're hoping that we'll have a cheese tour, and the cheese tour will finish in here with a bit of cheese tasting, maybe a little sip of wine. I'm not allowed to mention that. Sorry, environmental health. Sorry, cut that. And so that's what we're planning. Is so there'll be a little bit of tasting, and then before you can be let out, you'll be forced to sign up to a life supply of children. And that's probably the story. So what we've tried to get over in a very brief, very superficial way is that we're trying to take control of our food system right from the production side, the supplies to our production side, take control of those so that we're not held to ransom by the corporates, we're not subject to the fluctuations of global commodity prices. In the same way as the production end, we're hoping that we can establish a rapport, a story, a relationship with our customers, so that our customers are relatively loyal. We will always lose them and we'll gain some, and there'll always be a churn. But if we lose 100 customers and gain 100 customers, that's the way of it. If you've got a couple of thousand, but if you lose 100 customers and you only got 200 customers, that's a disaster. So we're trying to make a more resilient business model that is that's not being held to ransom by the processes and the retailers, which is the experience that we've found very much. As a small supplier in the retail world, you just get messed around totally by these guys. So if we can deal directly with our customers, build a relationship with them, then that's what we can do. And that's really what we're about. And the ethical side of it is we like Charles there. Charles is our herdsman now. He'll be working an average maybe 35, 40-hour week throughout the year. That is unheard of in dairy. Unheard of. Dairy is 70 hours, easy, 70, 80 hours a week. And that's just way of life now in dairy. And dairy is quite horrendous. That's why we rely on desperate people to come and do the work from poorer countries, because we can't get the local guys to do that kind of job anymore. And that is the problem that we're going to have with Brexit very shortly. So it has all kinds of issues associated with industrial farming. But that's another story. So what we're trying to do is create a resilient business model, work ethically as we can, and profitably, because it is a business and we're paying people. We've got people relying on us, our families, and we need to get it right. But we think we've got a good model, and it'll pay through in the end. We're very confident. Thank you very much.
One thing that it was, I think you asked it, so is the cheese pasteurised and eggs that we started off with pasteurised.
Right, you can relax now.
And then we changed and went to unpasteurised. The system, well, in Scotland, we seem to be getting obsessed with unpasteurised anything. And it's a completely different feel south of the border. It's completely different, because we were down at the cheese conference 10 days ago, and there was people experimenting with things that I wouldn't dare experiment with up here. But we have got to test our cheese so often. We've got to test the milk, test the milk filter, test the curd, and test the cheese, obviously. And Lauren asked me a bit more detail, so I went and just looked at just how expensive that was. and do all the tests that Scotland would like us to be doing, at the level we are at, where we're just making 40 kilos, so you've got to test every batch, it would be £5.50 per kilo, and that's more than the milk. And it does reduce when I go to my 1500 batch, but it's still a big on. It's a huge on cost. You know, if you're maybe doing 3% of your costs are bacteria testing, but when it's as much as that, it isn't viable. It quite simply isn't viable. So that's one of the reasons we're getting bigger, but we're still very much part of the campaign to say, look, pasteurised cheese is safe, unpasteurised cheese is safe, and not to block the specialists, because it is a small number of people that are doing it in the UK, and it's particularly small in Scotland because it has become so difficult. And there is a market out there for unpasteurised. From all the conversation we were having earlier about the gut biome, people are interested in having unpasteurised food, raw food.
It's not just a market; it's a growing market. And the science is the problem is our environmental health departments aren't keeping up with the science. The science is moving on so quickly now that what we know now, even 5 years ago, was unthinkable, because the technology allows us to test for the bacteria in ways that was unthinkable 5 years ago. So, we daren't be too critical of our environmental health people, because they're in our
Follow the rules.
They're just following the rules. The rules are wrong.
Rules can be followed.